spend your time and money on what is under indexed, what people are not talking about, and you have a stronger propensity to have stronger results. Spoiler alert though, Amazon's going to tell you to spend more money.
In your business journey so far, what was like a lesson that you needed to learn over and over again?
People are the solution to every problem. And if you can't accomplish your goal over 2 quarters, you don't have anything except a people problem. It's a people problem. I'm here to tell you that even your PPC problems are often people problems because they learn how to do things wrong or they have their own opinion and they're not following your SOPs. So lesson I've learned over and over again is focus on the people. It's more important than product. It's more important than service.
What was like something over time that you learned that you are able to take less seriously, where you are like more concerned in the beginning and now you're like more relaxed?
I've never been worried about anything except not growing. I'm a guy that loves being in the elevator on the way up, and I'm not able to manage an elevator on the way down. Well, this is the first time in the last 6 months where my company's been static. And a lot of people are like, that's great. The market's so bad. If you're static, that means you're still growing in a way. And I'm like, that's unacceptable. I want to grow despite that market mentality. And, I want to get to 50 million. And how do I get there? And so I have really structurally not been concerned that I can't accomplish anything. But right now, while my company is static, I've been a zealot about physical conditioning, right? I started doing jujitsu, started doing Muay Thai boxing, and I started getting, fit, like just like gaining muscle. And so I guess you could say in a way, I'm taking less seriously trying to grow my company past 20 mil as I worry about growing myself.
What is something about you that only someone know if they really know you very well?
I'm a super introvert. This throws everybody off. They're like, but you speak so well. You're doing videos all the time and you're great on stage. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm a good presenter. Introverts are amazing presenters. But when you see me at night off the clock and I don't want to speak to anybody and I'm like recharging and I want to go isolate myself and go a mountain for 12 kilometers by myself, it's because I'm a super introvert. I don't seek social attention and I say a lot of crazy and outlandish things, but it's not because I want the attention. It's because I literally believe those things. And that's something that most people wouldn't believe.
What does a good life mean for you?
I believe that I can be prosperous in all things. And so my why statement is leveling up life. I find that leveling up is so critical to my personal needs. It's not that I'm trying to achieve an endpoint. It's that it's never enough and I must always be improving, right? So I always wanted to get to the next level. Simultaneous to that, I want to bring that leveling up to the world and share that prosperity. I've created 550 jobs. So that's what it means to live a good life for me, is to level up, share that prosperity with the world, and always continue going.
When you look at accounts, when you look at your brands, that your customer brands, what are like the most critical KPIs that you think are like the most important ones to optimize Amazon advertising campaigns?
The one that nobody ever talks about is click-through rate. It's not a metric that's technically PPC mantra, right? Like people are going to talk about low ACOS or tacos or negations. But the thing I think nobody talks about is click-through rate. If you drink that Red Bull and you see that Red Bull on Amazon.com and next to it, there's a text that says it gives you wings on the main image, and you've never heard of Red Bull before, but you see literal wings in the main image, you're more likely to click on that ad. And that increases your click-through rate. And when your click-through rate increases, what happens? Your ACOS goes down, your conversion goes up, and you get more traffic. I think it's critical for people to focus on their main image to help their PPC. It is, in fact, probably cheaper, more effective, faster, more impactful to start with your main image before trying to update that PPC campaign.
How do you test main images? How do you split test? Which services?
So I'm a certified partner with PickFu. We use them. And there's, a lot of alternative A/B testing softwares as well. My suggestion is whether you A/B test it or not, show a keyword. So if your keyword is wine glass and it doesn't have the word wine glass on it, you probably should add the word wine glass. And this could be true for almost every single category with minor exception. The second is, does it pass the sniff test? Can you show it to grandma and she knows what the product is in 3 seconds? If not, it's not good. It's bad. Take a yellow journal. If you show a yellow journal, but it's not showing the age range that it's for kids age 6 to 12, doesn't say the word continuation journal on it, doesn't show inside the book that's got cartoons on the main image, nobody's going to understand this is for kids. If you sell a supplement, you got to show the pill. If you have a soap, you got to show the ingredients, like was it made of, and all of these different things that go into a main image. Those are the quick hits on CTR. But I also think that people don't negate keywords correctly. I think that's, one of the biggest mistakes that people make. They read literature from 6 years ago on the internet that says, oh, you start your PPC with an auto campaign and then you promote it to an exact match. Literally the dumbest thing anybody ever could do. Yes, you do need to get the exact match campaign up. That part's true. But what's not true is negating it from the auto campaign. Whoever is doing this right now, you are wasting thousands of dollars in wasted stupidity. And if a keyword is good and it's working in an auto campaign, leave it the F alone. Like, it's fine. It can sustain itself. Yes, you can segment it out and do an exact match campaign in addition to that. No, you don't bid against yourself. But when people negate good keywords, they are literally punching themselves in the face, because the ACOS on broad match and auto is lower than exact match by a substantial sum. Why is that the case? Because everybody and their dogs for 6 years has been saying make exact match campaigns and bid them up. So what happened? The market is over indexing, overpaying for exact match right now. I launched a mom box on Amazon and I sold $144,000 in 30 days selling this mom box. First 30 days. And I spent $11,000 on ads. It'll surprise everybody listening to this, but 8,000 of that was spent on one keyword: broad match gifts for mom. Broad match. 8,000 of my $11,000 budget for the month. Broad match gifts for mom. What was the consequence of that? Well, I ran 100% ACOS, by the way. Some people would be like, oh, frick, how did you make money? Well, because I got to organic spot number one for the keyword gifts for mom 48 hours before Mother's Day. When people are overspending money on an exact match instead of focusing on broad and auto, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes.
When talking about negative keywords already, what role do you see have negative keywords then? And where would you use them? Where would you recommend to use them nowadays?
Weekly, open up your broad and auto campaigns and run negations on keywords that are not working. Now, we could debate the methodology, but the framework is, undisputed in my mind. Every week you should check for negations. That's the framework. The method on how you do it or the thresholds that you do it, I think is worthy of debate, could be category dependent. So for example, somebody selling a $20 soap, you might want to negate something without 20 clicks and 0 sales. But somebody who sells a $200 air purifier, you might go 50 clicks because your ability and margin is totally different. But regardless of the method, the framework is very clear. Keep negating keywords on auto and broad. And the result of that is ACOS that'll be somewhere between 3 and 10% lower than exact match. It's a substantial cost savings and your dollars will go farther.
You say that a search term will have lower CPCs in an auto or broad campaign compared
Yes.
to the same keyword that should also target that search term in the exact campaign?
That's been exactly my experience. Also, the tertiary keywords that aren't being bid on as much because people are only focusing on the, let's say, the 50,000 search term exact match. But when you do broad match, and by the way, it's not even exact match anymore, it's exact-ish match, right? Like Amazon's been mucking up that, but that's another story. But when you have the word gifts for mom in broad match, you get 1,000 iterations of that term. Well, those 1,000 iterations of that term, some are going to be terrible results and you negate those, and some are going to be great results and nobody is bidding on those. And so your ACOS goes down tremendously. That's been my experience on thousands of Seller Central accounts. We have access to over 1,000 Seller Central accounts right now. We aggregate the data. We have a lot of conclusions that we make on it. I'm sure you've done the same thing with BidX. And there are some principles that are category agnostic, and there are other principles that have every account has to test to see what happens because nobody knows what's going to happen. But the things that I can guarantee you, right now, it's that if you negate bad keywords once a week and don't negate good keywords ever, you're going to have a stronger account. Probably 2 points in ACOS right off the bat, no matter what else you do. It doesn't even matter if you're overspending.
Regarding bid optimization, if you have search term exposure in multiple campaigns, how do you handle that?
I think it's okay. There's a common misconception that there's cannibalization between campaigns, and I don't find that to be the case. What I do find is cannibalization within an ad group. That I find to be the case. So for example, if I put 50 keywords into an ad group, only 5 of those keywords are going to get 80% of those impressions, which which is not a good thing because maybe 17 of those other 50 keywords are worth their own campaign. And we could debate like whether you could put one keyword per campaign and go crazy, or if 5 keywords per campaign is okay, and how you group them and how you segment them. I think some of those conversations are dependent or variables, and some people do well and some don't with some of those methods. What I definitely find is that too many keywords in one ad group does create cannibalization. But if you have the same keyword in multiple campaigns, you could get completely different results. For example, you could do 2 exact match campaigns on the same exact term and have one bid 10 cents higher and get totally different results. And the reason for that is the position the ad shows up. And what's really surprising to people, right? Let's imagine I put a $100 cap on the higher bid campaign, and then I have no cap on the lower bid campaign. So in theory, I would get a higher position until the budget ran out on the high PPC one, and then the low one would get the lower threshold and finish off. So what happens as an end result? Which campaign is going to be better? Well, on some accounts, the higher bid one does better. And on other accounts, the lower bid one does better. And so that's an interesting situation worth testing. And I bet you 80% of the people listening to this have never created an exact campaign twice with just a bid difference. That's a super advanced technique that most people have never heard of or even attempted. But in Google PPC land, that's been done for 10 years. So
it would be interesting to run like a small case study that just has like a bunch of brands where the campaigns were set up, and then have like some data attaching to that. But we can confirm that like quantity amount of keywords in an ad group is affecting like the amount of clicks that the keywords are receiving. And if you have like a campaign with 5 keywords, probably all of them are getting clicks. Whereas like if you put these 5 into an ad group where you have like 100, then suddenly they don't anymore, but they did before.
7 years ago, I used to do the shotgun campaigns, and I'd put 200 keywords in a campaign, and I had good results back then. And then right around 2019, give or take a year, I think it was like June of 2019, maybe 2020, everything changed. And at that point, that stage, that shotgun campaign no longer works. There is PPC changes and algo changes that, like, for example, the idea to promote a keyword from auto to exact match and then negate it off auto, that used to be a good strategy 6 or 7 years ago. But today, with the current landscape, it's a terrible strategy. I think that people who are managing PPC today have to be way more sophisticated. They have to be trial and error prone, troubleshooters, problem solvers, very technocrat, Excel wizards. You got to know how to do your macros. You got to know your template files. You got to know the latest and greatest PPC software like BidX. Like there's so many things that you have to be able to do as a PPC guy. And if you're running a $25,000 a month PPC campaign right now, and you don't spend at least 10 hours a week in the PPC land, then you're going to get smoked by the competitors. Why? Because there's 1,000 PPC agencies out there. Why? Because Pakistan has like 50,000 people who want to do PPC and are like literally buying every PPC course and like trying to break into this market because they're good at Excel and they're good at everything except potentially English. You as a business owner, if you're listening to this and you have a $25,000 a month budget and you only spend 2 hours in your PPC, I guarantee you could spend $1,500, $2,000 a month on a PPC expert, and they will outperform you all day long. And I don't care how much of a product expert you think you are, the PPC techniques are changing so dramatically right now. And we haven't even scratched the surface with things like bid by the hour or day parting, right? Or all of the other strategies that you could be doing, but because you're focused on 80 things as an Amazon brand owner, you don't have time to go do.
Advertisers, sellers are spending nowadays so much money on ads that they are wasting so much money that it's like a fraction what they would need to invest into an agency, a freelancer, like an in-house employee team member, or software whatsoever that would immediately provide like 3-5x return of that investment and help them to further grow and scale.
I took over a PPC account and it was doing $74,000 a week off of PPC. And within 7 days, I got them to $194,000. By the way, the ACoS went down during this process, not up. But like what I see on PPC campaigns is people are not making enough bid changes, right? They don't engage a software or use somebody that makes 2 changes a week through a template file. They don't add negations to their odd and brado. They over-index. They have 80% of their budget in exact match I believe you should have 50 to 80% of your budget in auto and broad match. And nobody in the internet is saying that stuff. Like, I'm the only guy saying that stuff. And I'm okay with saying that. But like, when you change the methodology, that's the sort of world or door you can open up. 162% growth in a week. I mean, that's crazy.
If you are doing something different than the industry, either like people think you're dumb, but if you look at the results, then you realize that actually it's a pretty smart move, and doing like something different than everybody else is putting you in an advanced position where suddenly you do have like much more exposure to search terms that are not that frequently being searched, where you show up and get like clicks and purchases for like super low CPCs.
When something is easier or less costly and you can get more impressions, more bids, and TikTok is like the thing right now, by the way, cheap impressions. Prices are going up like crazy in the last 90 days. Spend your time and money on what is under indexed, what people are not talking about, and you have a stronger propensity to have stronger results.
How much does external traffic play a role in your customers' strategy, and how much do you leverage different channels to drive traffic?
This has been a huge struggle for my agency, and we have constantly tried to crack this. The real big challenge is that Amazon sponsored products are so damn effective that the expectation of these brands that when they go test Facebook or Google or TikTok is absurd and unmatchable. We have maybe 20 of our brands running external traffic to Amazon out of 400. Frequently, these brands are native born Amazon brands that have never been in a retail shop, that launched on Amazon but don't have any sort of website. And those brands are hit or miss on success with these alternative platforms. Sometimes it's crazy good, sometimes it's bad. I think all traffic is good traffic. I think people over-index on conversion rates. I think Amazon has a baseline conversion rate of 10%. And a Shopify or a Magento website has a baseline of like 1 to 2%. So Amazon has 5 to 10x conversion rates. So people spending lots of time on conversion, I think, are over. Obviously, you got to fill out your A+ content. Obviously, you got to fill out brand story and, you know, write a good bullet or whatever. If you don't spend 10 times as much time on traffic conversations, then you are going uphill, right? It is 7 times harder to double your conversion rate than to double your traffic. Maybe that stat is under indexed. Maybe I should say it's 20 times harder. But like, the point is, I think people need to focus on what is easiest.
So coming back to bid management, how do you calculate the initial bid of a keyword when you start a new campaign?
This is a good finger in the air guess. I would say some people will just take the suggestion from Amazon. Other people will do the bid 20% up. Other people will do 20% down. I'll be honest, I've tested every one of these methodologies and I don't have a strong preference. So I guess you could put me in the middle camp with just take the suggested bid. What I do have strong feelings on is the match type. And for that, I think fixed bids is the ideal keyword launch type. And I think that up and down is the long-term where you want to go. So after you've got 20 sales on a campaign, give or take, you might be able to transfer, specifically like on that ad group or keyword, you might be able to transfer it over to up and down. But by 100 sales, 100% of the time I go to up and down. And the only time I use down only is on a campaign or, you know, a keyword where I've had a really hard time getting it below my ACOS threshold, but I don't want to negate it, right? So let's say my threshold is 35%. I've got an ACOS of 50% on this one keyword, this one campaign. I will then rotate it over to down only to see if I could like fudge it through the system. Works about 45% of the time. So I'm not a huge fan of this technique, but it's like a last ditch effort for me to try and salvage something. But by and large, I think up and down is preferred. And then the actual bid itself, no matter what you start with, it doesn't matter. You're going to micro adjust it every week anyway. I don't think you need to spend a lot of time getting your bids right on launch. But what I do think you need to do is be a hummingbird, flap your wings as fast as possible, spend as much as you can that you can justify, and then optimize it in real time. So if you come out of the gate and you're hitting 100% ACOS and your goal is 35, you know exactly what to do. You're going to lower your bid 50%, and then you're going to get no impressions. And then next week, you're going to end up raising your bid 5%. And then you're going to try and find that threshold. Maybe the week after that will be another 5%. But you try and find that threshold of diminishing returns and optimal results. Some people will use the software to get there faster. Other people will use template files, and they like to do it old school because they think a pilot is more important. You know, I have strong opinions on which I use, but I think everybody can choose for themselves yourselves and make sense of it. But the principle of up and down, long-term and fixed to start, I think cross applies in almost every instance.
What do you do with keywords that don't get any impressions?
Raise the bid, no question. If there's still no impressions after you raise the bid, then it's not a bid issue. It's a relevancy question usually. And for that, you have to update the title, the bullet points, the content, and make sure the keyword is present in those locations. And if it still isn't fixed at that point, then you have a huge problem. Maybe your ad is suspended, or you got to file some tickets. Maybe they've miscategorized your product, all kinds of things. I've seen products get banned because they're adult products from running ads. I've seen wine glasses get banned because they have the word drinking on them. That happened to me. Frickin' A, I lost so much money on that ban. And I've seen all kinds of challenges, but generally speaking, for most people listening to this, raising the bids will solve the problem. And then for another 20% of the listeners, relevancy and getting the keyword in the listing. And then for like the 5% of listeners out there that none of that works for, you're pretty boned and there's almost nothing you can do. But filing tickets and categorization would be where I would start. And we can fix those issues typically in my Amazon guide, but it's not very easy.
You said you adjust bids once a week. You recommend to do so at least like once a week. What is like the look back of days of the data that you look at if you make your bid adjustments?
So a lot of PPC questions are relative, and this is a great example of a relative question. So if you have an account and you spend $100,000 a month or $100,000 a week, obviously the look back period for you is going to be very different than somebody who spends $1,000 a month. I think it's a spend question, not a time period question. However, when it is a time period question, it's usually around holidays. Right. So if you went and optimized your bids on Black Friday, no look back period is going to matter, right? Like zero look back period will matter. It's a total CF on Black Friday. If you were in the middle of June and there's no holidays in the month of June, then your look back period might be 7 days or 14, depending on how much money you're spending on the platform. So, but by and large, an average seller in an average week, probably a 7-day period is okay.
How much days do you ignore and do you provide Amazon to attribute sales?
In negations, we're going to look, have a lot larger of a look back. We're going to use like a 60-day look back period for some of that integrated, intel. I'll give you another tip that's kind of related, and it's the brand analytics report. I think is very helpful. It shows you your market share. So we could talk all day about how to get ACoS lower. We could talk all day about, how to segment out campaigns. And I think those topics are just hit all the time. I can go there if there's interest, but like one of the things I think a lot of people don't do is look at the brand analytics report to find opportunities. And so if you have a keyword like the term candles for cleansing house, and I had an impression share of like 4% at the time, and then I had a click-through rate of like 7%. And so I looked at the data and I'm like, that's interesting. I have something that is getting more clicks proportionately than it's getting impressions. So what I chose to do is I updated, some of the content. I put the keyword in the main image. I also spent 4 times as much on ads. And after I made some of this change by looking at the brand analytics data, my impression share more than tripled. My click share almost tripled. My add to carts almost tripled. My purchases did triple. And then after all is said and done, my market share for all purchases on this single keyword was 19%. I think there's a lot of data inside of Amazon that's ignored. And so if you want to get ahead of it and you leverage those features that Amazon's come out with, the brand analytics and the opportunity to see your market share is very effective for PPC campaigns. Last thing I'll mention there, if you go look at the brand analytics today and you look at the top 50 keywords in that report, any of those keywords that you don't have a PPC campaign for, you probably should. And most of them might deserve their own exact match keyword campaign.
You'd say probably that one of the common mistakes that people are doing nowadays is like not really leveraging the data and the reports that Amazon is providing in the meantime. Many of them might be stuck in 2019 where there was like little data available, but now there's like so much data available where you can get like insights to grow and scale your advertising account. What other common mistakes do you see? What errors do you see when you take over accounts?
So segmentation, bid methodologies, negation issues, just how the targeting is done, bidding methodologies. But I guess the one criticism that I would give at large is that a lot of people will just parrot the same PPC mantras over and over. And then the whole industry parrots the same thing over and over again. And it may not even be true information. My best piece of advice to avoid mistakes is to literally just test everything on your account. You'll waste some money through the testing methodologies, but you'll figure out what's right for your account. So at the cost of some wasted ad spend, you may find a growth path or a trajectory that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. It's not about the order of operations. It's about the continuous optimization. It's about the leveling up hummingbird methodology, buzzing from one flower to another and just making micro improvements.
What is the potential that we do have? Like, if you run some internal forecast models, what do you predict? Where could we be like in 6 months, in 1 year? So what role does predictive analytics and forecasting play at your agency?
I think this is a finger in the air type of situation. Like the bigger a company is, the more they care about forecasting. Why? Because their CEO or their boss's boss is saying, hey, I need to know what you can do this quarter. I need to know what you can do for the year, and then freaking hit it. But here's the truth. All of the forecasting and predictive analytics is bogus, and nobody actually knows what the hell is about to happen. If they actually did, they'd be going and playing the stock market, and they'd do it for themselves. That's, I guess, my initial impression. Now, having said that, there are some things that you can do to anticipate market trends. For example, there are many, many tools on the market that will tell you the spikes and trends of a keyword over time. Take, for example, the word gifts for mom. During Mother's Day, obviously it spikes, but some of you may be surprised to know that it spikes even more during the Christmas rush. And so if you were trying to figure out when's the best time to launch a product to sell for gifts for mom, it would either be May 1st or Black Friday weekend and launch one of those two time periods. And if you did that, you'll probably do pretty good. So yes, is it possible to know when a product has a propensity to have a higher conversion rate? Yes. But can you guesstimate the exact sales dollars that you're going to get from this? Absolutely not. So that's where I think forecasting can be difficult. But in terms of keyword data, the keyword data is impeccable. It's very reliable. You can see how it's going to do year in, year out. You'll see the market trends. You'll see all the different products and how they stack up. And I think that data is hardcore, very successful. As long as people understand the limitations of some of the data, we take that into account. And no matter where we are, you know, it's kind of like that mantra of like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago, obviously. Today's the next best day because it's the only thing we can do. And so with that in mind, as long as you just continuously make some improvements, you're going to have a success in advertising on Amazon.
Agree. It's difficult to forecast the sales. What we realized, it's like much easier to forecast budgets. I think like Amazon also released the ad planner recently that did have like a different name prior to that, where you can at least see across the different ad products, if you target certain audiences, how many people are you going to reach and what is like the assumption budget that you would need to invest to have that reach. And then again, this is something where the bigger brands work with.
Yeah, spoiler alert though, Amazon's going to tell you to spend more money, right? So like any predictive analytics coming out of Amazon, it's just going to, I'll just spoil it for you. Here's the conclusion of every report ever coming out of Amazon. Here's a framework that I think is superior to a data analysis, and that is spend between 11 and 15% of your desired top line sales on ads. And if you do that, you're going to grow. If you spend less than 7%, you're going to shrink. I think 11 to 15% category agnostic is very solid. Of the $1.2 billion that I manage personally a year on Amazon, we're actually averaging a tacos of 9%. That's usually very interesting for people to see.
So to grow your own agency, you just need to raise the total ad cost to your recommended 11% to increase some of the ad spends, but also increase like the sales to have like a healthy growth for your brands and customers. When talking about investing, one of the last questions, if Amazon wants you to invest so much into ads, what impact do you see have the ads and the ad sales on your total performance, on your organic search performance?
So everybody thinks if you're in organic position one, you can just turn ads off. That is the stupidest idea ever. Don't do that. Here's a use case study. I had the number one wine glass on Amazon 3 years ago. Okay. And I was organically ranked for number one for the term wine glass. This wine glass was, I'm not drinking alone, I'm social distancing. Some stupid saying that I ripped off somewhere else, put it on my wine glass, and sold thousands of these suckers. It was one of the most profitable products I ever had. I super miss it. And then one day, basically Valentine's Day weekend, Amazon banned my product from ads with the stupid policy update that I was promoting alcoholism. I don't even drink alcohol and I use these wine glasses. So, go figure, for water, whatever. Anyway, so I went from organic slot number 1 down to position 44. I lost 50% of my sales and I never recovered. And the product ended up getting discontinued, 18 months later. If you are thinking about saving money by turning off your PPC and you're in the top of page 1 for organic, I'm here to tell you that if you do that within days, not even weeks, within days, you will see your sales go down. And even if I'm wrong and it doesn't happen that quick, it'll most definitely happen within weeks. And the reason for that is the ads are duplicating your positions. It's not a zero-sum game. If ad position 1 gets 7% of clicks, I'm making that number up, but it's probably accurate. And ad position 2 gets 6% of clicks, and ad position 3 gets 5% of clicks. And then after we get down to like position 10 or whatever, it's like under a percentage point each. If all of that framework is statistically directionally correct, then if you are in position 1 for PPC and in organic position 1, then guess what happens? You get the 5% of position clicks 1, and in addition to that, you also get organic position 1 clicks of another 3% for a total of 8% of all clicks. It is not stealing from your organic clicks. The people and the eyes do not automatically go to the ad click. Some of them still go over to the organic. Some people have ad blockers on. There's all kinds of things. So long story short, multiple ads, good. And when I say ads, I'm including the organic position. That is an ad in itself. You just don't pay for it. You're advertising your listing for free. Do not turn your ads off. They have a massive impact on SEO. And in addition to that, we run hundreds of SEO ad campaigns where we're trying to rank for a keyword, like the gifts from mom example I gave earlier to get to position 1 for 100,000 monthly search volume term.
Also what Amazon would probably tell you, but like in a way where it makes sense, where you have like that investment of like 11 to 13% TAR cost, and where it's like a smart investment where you also want to rank organically. There it absolutely makes sense and it will keep you at top. So Stephen, it's like almost time out. Like to conclude, have like a small outlook into the development of the Amazon marketplace. What do you think? Where are we heading into the upcoming 12 months in the States, especially like with growing competition from Temu and so on?
So Temu's flash pan, that thing is going to be hot for about 2 years, and then it's going to be not, and it's going to go the way of Jet, which some of you don't even know what Jet is. Walmart bought it and did nothing with it. Case example. So Temu has a lot of funding. They're from the Chinese. I'm terrified because I don't want to work for the Chinese. I don't want anything to do with them. They're the only shot at taking Amazon out, a la Temu and TikTok, but heaven help us, that would be far worse than our current overlords. Long story short, I think we're going to see flash pan alternatives to Amazon that will never take Amazon out. Amazon has invested billions of dollars into infrastructure that nobody is willing to counter invest in. Walmart does not have a shot. Walmart is not a marketplace. It is a retailer that has a website and puts its own products at the top of search and cheats. Target is the sleeper, though. That's the dark horse. I would pay special attention to Target. I think they may have a chance, but they're not trying very hard.
What is like the number one that you would recommend as like advertising strategy where people should run A/B tests whatsoever? What is like the number one ad product also on that advertisers, sellers should focus on in the upcoming months?
I'm still going to advocate 85% of budgets go to sponsored products, but video ads are very worthwhile of testing, building, getting influencers to shoot, right? If you sell a tumbler and you can get somebody in a Starbucks costume to talk about how your product's the best thing for coffee ever, you're going to crush some ad sales. You're going to get some clicks on that stuff. So there's a lot of things that you can do as a seller on Amazon, and video needs to be something that you take some major investments into.